Thanks for staying with us. Now, the headline of an article published on the 13th of April on today.ng reads, 99 million Nigerian women to benefit from oil, gas in 3 years. Now, according to this article, the Director General of the Center, Mrs. Mary Ekpere Etta, during the official launch of the Nigerian Women for Liquefied Petroleum Gas project, said this was in a bid to improve women's livelihood, survival, clean environment, as well as pulling millions of households out of poverty. Now, the scheme is a platform to mobilize and educate women on how to use LPG and how it can improve livelihood. Now, this is one out of hundreds of empowerment or empowering programs we come across in the news from time to time. I've always wondered how much impact do these kinds of schemes, have on real empowerment for women, and what really is empowerment, for today's woman. What really is empowerment? Is it giving grinding machine, giving sewing machine, giving 10,000 naira, giving 5,000 naira? Is that really what women empowerment is all about? Because that's what we see here and there every time. And we'll keep talking about it. All right, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WeShow, or send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So I'm going to bring in our guest like in a minute or two, but I wanted to just hear your initial thoughts. Let me start with you, EC. Your initial thoughts on women empowerment, what it means for the 21st century woman.
Women's empowerment for me is about mindset. We need to reorientate the woman's mindset. Basically, today's woman feels that, we own the world, we have to do what we have to go out there and get it. And I totally agree with them. Basically, because you can't sit in your parlor and saying the men didn't give me the chance and you're waiting for them to give it to you on a platter of gold. You have to empower yourself and also empower other women around you. And this stems from the mindset of women who are willing to go the extra mile and make something of themselves.
Okay,
basically.
Fantastic. All right, so let me come to you, Tammy. What do you think? What's empowerment for you before the 21st century woman? Oh, Tammy, you need to unmute yourself. I can't hear Tammy. Tammy, are you there?
Oh, apologies, please.
Go ahead.
So, yes, I am. So I was saying that I think empowerment to women just means different things. So it could be like at the level of empowering us when we talk about a mindset shift, and that's knowledge-based, which I think is very foundational. But I think that some people also need, like we're in different areas and we're in different sectors. So if you want to empower a woman in a rural area, the ways to go about it, the approach may be different from empowering somebody who is in an urban area. Even though you still want to ensure that, when it comes to knowledge and the mindset, to empower them in such a way, because I think it starts from the mind, really. But when you talk about, some of the things you could do, like physical things, like, how you mentioned, like would the sewing machine be relevant? For some people, that's actually what they need to get their business started, and to be able to fend for themselves, and maybe eventually become tailors who have great like industrial or commercial capacity. But for some other people, it's different. But I think the mindset is important. But what level, targeting people at different levels, and understanding their needs is very important.
Okay. All right, so let me bring in our guests because I have plenty of things to say. Norena M Chiteba, rather, Lady Norena, is the founder of KUPES Young Women's Network, a network with an aim to inspire, empower, and transform young women from all walks of life and shape them into leaders for positive change. Now, she is a sought-after transformational speaker with a passion for personal branding and leadership, and has spoken at several forums and with several organizations. Now, she is a mentor for the 2016 Mandela Washington Fellows and national mentor under the Atlas Mara Foundation. And she's joined us live from Zambia. Thank you so much, Lady Norena.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a great pleasure and such an honor. Thank you so much.
So When we talk about women empowerment, right? Sometimes we think some things are unique to us here in Nigeria. So I'm happy that I'm speaking to someone from Zambia. So maybe we can now compare notes and see if we have some similarities in terms of what empowerment is. But in your view, what do you think empowerment should be like, for the 21st century woman? I mean, for us here, most times when we hear, especially government establishments, doing any scheme that has to do with women empowerment, it's always grinding machine, sewing machine, and all of those things. Those are the kind of things, and maybe small cash money that they give them to start a petty trade and all of that. Is that what real empowerment is for today's woman?
Okay. So thank you so much. You just said something very interesting, like being able to bounce off not necessarily the ideas, but also to see whether Nigeria and Zambia could be in the same boat. I smile because earlier on you were talking about how easy Nigerians forget. And sometimes it's usually towards elections, and all of a sudden we forget everything that could have happened. It does happen here as well. So I guess the conversations for empowerment of women is across board. It's across Africa, it's across the world. But what is important really for us, and I like what Temi had said earlier on in terms of the mindset. So usually, in fact, more often than not, you will find that when somebody says the word empowerment, the first thing that will come to mind is money. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the conversation that we've had, or rather had to speak about over and over, even here in Zambia. The minute we say, for instance, we've got KUPES Young Women's Network, which focuses on inspiring, empowering, and transforming young women from all walks of life. The minute I put the word empower in there, all of a sudden, people tend to think it is about money. However, empowerment is much more than money. And yes, we've talked about the grinding machines or the sewing machines that come into play, but that should be secondary. One of the things that I know for sure is that we could do all the fancy things. We could do I could give you $10,000 today. I can give you $5,000 today. But if I don't work with your mind, then it is all futile. So for me, what is important, empowerment for the 21st century woman is, first of all, do we know what she is thinking? Do we know what she is capable of? So because what we're saying, empowerment is me being able to add value. So being able to give power to this woman for her to be able to do much more than she's capable of doing. So the first thing is, how is her mindset? And Africa has had a challenge in terms of having transformational leaders, having leaders who are all about service. Mm-hmm. So what we need for African women, I would say maybe women the world over, is when we talk about women empowerment, let it not be on material things, or let it not be monetary things, which is secondary. But for me, what is important is the mindset. We need to get the women thinking at a certain level. So when we start talking about those conversations, let's start empowering them with the right skills. Let's put them in rooms where they're the correct conversation. So for instance, the needs that women might have in rural, I'll give an example here, maybe in Kalingalinga, for instance, here, or I go deep into Northwestern, the needs that they will have will be different. But even then, even before I give her money, even before I give her that tool, can I talk to her on how then she's going to manage the money that's going to come out there? Can I talk to her about what it means to actually be given this sewing machine, for instance? So it is very important for us to understand that it's much more about, and that is what we've suffered with for a very long time in Africa. However, again, empowerment for me, again, because it's almost something that it's almost like a revolution. 1960s, we need women to do this, we need women to do that. Exactly. Empowerment for me is much more than, in fact, not much more, actually. It is the notion around it is that women should have power over the man. So empowerment for me is not anywhere near having power over the man, but for us, when I'm given that responsibility, is for me to have power over myself, such that I'll be able to add value wherever God places me. So for me, I don't even think about, when we're talking about women empowerment, I know people are like, no, you're going to be fighting the man. No, we don't even need to go there. We're already powerful. So let's take that out of the equation. What is important for us is, I'm going to be empowered. Therefore, once I'm empowered, what value will I add, not only to myself, but to my family, to my society, to my community? to my country and Africa as a whole. For me, that's what empowerment should be
means.
for the African woman.
That's a beautiful opening. I love it. And you talked about the fact that Africa has the challenge of having transformational leaders to guide the women, basically. So what has been your greatest challenge while you're trying to empower women in Africa or in Zambia, basically?
It's the notion around confidence, because at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, one of the conversations that we have, especially with the young women in the network, is being able to get them to a level where they understand their capabilities, where they understand their self-worth and their purpose. Because over time, it's almost as if women cannot be in certain positions. And therefore, we've struggled with an issue of confidence and self-worth. And unfortunately, self-worth, again, has been relegated to money, thinking you can only be worthy when you have money. So one of the things that we've had to overcome are issues of confidence, are issues of self-worth, and getting this woman to believe that she can actually do this. And then she doesn't have to play the woman card for her to actually be able to do this. So one of the is for us to get to a place where this woman understands that, yes, I am a woman and I'm an individual and I'm coming here. Yes, there's the woman, which is a good thing, but I'm coming here as an individual. So it's been about the self-belief. It's been about having her understand her self-worth and having the confidence for her to be able to do. So those are the things that we've had to undergo and overcome with the women that we speak to.
So if
let me come to Temi.
Okay.
Sorry. Temi, are you there?
Okay, so yes, I can hear you. So I mean, reading through her work and as you introduced her, you mentioned that she's strong on personal brand and leadership, and you know that I'm also I'm very interested in personal brand. So my question is about that. So I find that, or I think that, let me put it this way, a lot of women don't like to take credit for the great work that they do. I'm not sure if you've observed that, in the course of your work, you've observed that a lot of women don't like to shine, take attention, or, be seen for the work they're doing. How would you advise women, especially because you think there's a lot that has to do with the mindset. What would you say to such women who are perhaps in organizations and they just don't want to be seen, they just don't want to take the credit for the work? What would you say to those women?
Again, it goes back, Temi, thank you. It goes back to the issue of the confidence and the self-worth and the self-belief in this woman. Yes, it has been seen, actually. You've done something great. And for her to actually just say it and blow her, it's a mammoth task to actually get her to just say, listen, you did this. And we're going to applaud you because, we're going to applaud you because you actually did it. But for her to get to that level, it's a huge task. However, when we talk about, like you're saying, the personal branding, it is one of those things where we need to understand that as women leaders, every woman leader, or in fact, let's just say every leader, must have a clearly defined personal brand. And the reason why that is important is because if we don't know what you stand for, if you don't clearly define who you are, your ability to lead will be limited. It's very important for women, and maybe I would just say, because we're talking about women, it is important for us women to first of all understand and appreciate who we are, what we stand for, what we've been able to achieve. Once you can understand and harness that and believe that this is actually my work, get up and be celebrated. It is one of those things we sit back and want to be, no. In the 21st century woman, we cannot do that anymore. And again, it's not a question of you being cocky, because sometimes they tend to think that, no, when I say this, they'll think I'm arrogant, they'll think, no. Being able to say, I have achieved this, is just information that you're giving people. It is information that you're giving people, making them understand that she's able to do that, and we're going to celebrate her. So for women, yes, Temi, some of them have a challenge to just step up and say, this is who I am. They have a challenge to be able to step up and say, this is what I have done and what I've been able to achieve. What is important for us, again, and I love this because we're having this conversation today, is to have to create more platforms for women to be in conversations like this and say, listen, it is okay. It is okay for you to go out there and say, I can win and I will do this, and we will celebrate you and we'll be behind you. So yes, women have had a challenge with that. So it is important for us to step up and help other women who are not able to use their voice. And if we can, we'll do it for them. But what is important, let her take up that responsibility for herself, her self-belief and her confidence, because it was her work anyway. It is her achievement, and we should be able to celebrate that.
All right, so thank you for that. You know what we're going to do? We'll just take a very short break. When we return, I'll take Isi's questions. Stay with us. We'll be right back.